these conversations and streaming it to you live on the internet. And the other way is mentoring and public speaking. And lastly, I'm not wearing it today, but it's the apparel line, the t-shirt. So we have different ways that we use to get to women and inspire them. And it's not just women at all. The men support us as well. So for that, we're very, very blessed and honored to have the brand doing what it does. Today, like I said, we want to talk about the educational system. It is that time of the year, right? Some people are starting to wear jackets. It's starting to feel like fall in their region. We're still down here in the South. It's short sleeves are still the order of the day. But needless to say, whether your kid is in college or in elementary school or preschool, everybody's child is back in the school system. I tried to peel this onion before. Shouts out to Valeria Vincent, who helped me have this conversation like 4 or 5 months ago, and it was a very intimate conversation about the school system as we know today. Through her help, we were able to get more educators to the table today. Val couldn't be a part of it. She had to work, but she's sending her energy this way. We want to talk about how the system aligns today. And I think because you ladies are educators, you're going to bring different experiences, things that you may have witnessed, maybe things that you've experienced yourself. Again, at the end of the day, we're going to lay out all the problems and the issues, but through the conversation, our hope is that we provide our listeners some points of resolution. That's the empowerment piece, right? We want to give people the tools that they need in order to be successful. So without further ado, I'm going to start to my left. Attallah, just tell the people a little bit about who you are and so they can know.
Okay, greetings. I'm Attallah Pamoja, and I consider myself to be a creative educator. Most of my work has been with the little ones, so as an early childhood educator.
Right.
But I also have worked in early elementary. I went to school actually for interior design, and I have an early childhood education credential. So that's where my work has been primarily, and I do enjoy working with children who are pretty much old enough or young enough to be my children.
Right.
Like I could be their parent if I had them somewhere in my 20s or something like that. So that's where I feel most connected. I love younger children, children who are elementary and early childhood.
Yes.
I've been a nanny, and I've also recently become an advocate for Fulton County with Fulton County CASA, and that's been a really eye-opening experience. And that's where I stand as far as being an educator and being a child advocate.
Thank you, Attallah. Thank you, Attallah. Thanks for coming.
Awesome.
Katina,
Yes, ma'am.
tell the people a little bit about yourself, Katina.
Greetings. I am Katina Cunningham. Actually, my background is in technology and with a minor in mathematics. And I went back to school and started my master's in secondary math education, where I was pulled away to become a teacher in Dayton, Ohio.
Wow.
The Dayton View Academy, where I taught at a charter school. It's a charter school. It's quite different from the regular public school. Very high functioning children. Went through a pretty tough illness a while back, and while I was recovering, decided to go into the nonprofit sector. I've always done a lot of business and technology management with the nonprofit sector, and my give back is in the area of, I want to say, secondary. And also, I have a background in working with the space program. I worked with the older kids in the adult academy. It's actually called Alabama Space Science Exhibit Commission, which is a space center for NASA.
Wow.
And I did a lot of educating there with the older kids and with adult academy doing space science and things of that nature. But I have an array of areas where I have passion for education. And my heart, it was instilled by my dad. He had a strong love for education. And I look a little deeper at the root cause, trying to see where we can provide permanent fixes and not Band-Aid fixes for education and our children and those who bring education to us.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. We're going to talk about that for sure. Betsy, are you with us on the phone? Betsy?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
All right, Betsy. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
My name's Betsy. My background, actually, I got my degree in biology with the intent to go to medical school. But I ended up a few years later going back to school So that's what I've been doing since 2002. My very first job, I moved from Illinois, a little bitty small farm town in Illinois, down here to Georgia. My first job was in South Fulton County. So I worked in Fulton County for 6 years, and then I left. I subbed as an elementary school teacher. I went back to school, got certified in elementary. But I subbed for a while at my daughter's school, and then I got a phone call saying, you need to apply for this job. So I currently work in the virtual school sector, which I absolutely love. It was the best thing I've ever done.
Awesome.
And so how long have you been teaching virtually, Betsy?
3.5 years.
Awesome, awesome. A lot of the ladies here didn't know. They think they know me. They don't know me. But I told them that I was an adjunct professor for DeVry. So I taught virtually, too, for about 18 months. And I did love it as well. I don't know what it is about it. I think it was just the audience of people. And I think just the power that you have as educators is just awesome. Because you have the ability to ignite a mind and provide information. And then based on the level that which you're teaching, you can instill your personal experiences that tie into the information that you're sharing when you're enlightening these minds. And the thing about college today is, and I'm just going to digress for a second and then we'll get to some of the questions that I wanted to ask. The thing about college level is it's not kids coming out of high school anymore. It's grandmothers going back.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's grandmothers that are watching their daughters' kids or their sons' children, raising them, and their grandkids are inspiring them to go back to school. So the dynamic that you have in a faceless environment, virtually, you don't know who you're touching, but the ages vary. College is not designed just for that 18 and 22-year-old range anymore.
Right.
It's people that have had to make some life decisions or never thought about going to college before that are starting to go back in. And just because you go to college doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see it through graduation. Perhaps you just want to take a couple of classes to see if this is something that you want to do. But there's just so much information out here that people are trying to get it. So thanks, Betsy, for joining. So we're going to jump in. So a lot of different backgrounds. We can peel this thing like right away. But what I wanted to talk about is that I see, right? My son, Christopher, shouts out to Christopher. He is in the 4th grade, right? So the very first day I take him to school, there are 35 chairs in his class. He's got one teacher. 35. One teacher. And I said to her, you got 35 kids in this class? She says, yeah. I said, are they going to reduce that in any kind of way? Well, they're looking at doing that. It's the first week of school. I got it. Are you going to get like a teacher's assistant or somebody to help you? Because my son by himself. Hello. We'll have you. Hello. Is this on? I think it's on.
Running around table.
Right. So I'm trying to be considerate of the other students that you have. I know my son is on 10. Kendi, 8.5 to 10. So can you ladies, help me. And I'm Katina. I'm looking at you. Tell me this overcrowded teachers getting underpaid, the classrooms. Give me your insight on that. What's really happening?
I think we speak most passionately from experience areas. I mentioned in my introduction that I was at Dayton View Academy in Dayton, Ohio back in 2003, 2004. And my classroom, actually, when they hired me on, there had been 2 to 3 teachers. It was September, new school year, that had left because I think my class had about 33 to 35 students.
Right.
I didn't have an assistant. I didn't have a student teacher.
Right.
And this was inner city Dayton. Very high functioning students. So many factors play into, number one, overcrowding.
Right.
Number two, my father, and I thank God for him, but my father always wanted to give us a foundation and make sure we go in with the prerequisites that we needed to perform well.
Right.
When you talk about that level of crowding, one person being able to give that teacher being able to give 35 students
That's a
what
lot.
they need to be effective.
That's a lot.
We haven't even really touched the substance first, because
Right.
most of my students didn't eat breakfast coming to school.
Come on now.
Ma'am.
Come on.
They didn't eat breakfast coming to school. So just honing in on the overcrowdedness, and I think that's one of a lot of issues, especially in the public sector. The school that I taught at was a charter school.
Yes.
And it's happening, and I think it's a huge, widespread issue.
Yes. Betsy, from a virtual perspective, Betsy, you can teach how many students online? I mean, sincerely, how many students can you feel that you can empower with education online?
I don't know, Michelle, that there's a number that the state has set. I really think that can be subjective because every teacher is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one teacher can handle, could handle, 200, 300 kids, where another teacher might be effective maybe only like at 150. I know
Wow.
that when I was in a brick and mortar school in Fulton County, I probably had about 165 kids, and that was 5 classes of life sciences. I taught all different types of biology.
Wow. Wow.
So I think it depends on the teacher, on how many kids that you can handle. But what we do in virtual school is much different. I think the stresses are different because of the responsibilities change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have kids come to me face to face every day.
Right.
So my challenge comes in me trying to get a hold of them. The way we have it set up, I have a set of homeroom kids. I have, I think, 42 homeroom kids. Then I'm responsible for calling at least once every 2 weeks, depending on if they're failing or not. If they're failing, I call them once a week. But the most important thing, I think, for us in virtual school is establishing those relationships with parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I think, like you said earlier, with the diversity of students that we have a huge diversity of students. Some were bullied, some were come to us because they're athletes or they're ballet dancers and they need to be able to see work at a certain time.
Wow.
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 So it kind of depends, but as far as number wise, I think that's just based on the teacher.
Now, Betsy, you teaching biology and the sciences for what grade? I don't know if I caught the grade. What grade, ideally?
Well, I have 9th grade biology, but I also have AP biology as well, and then I have anatomy and physiology and environmental science.
Wow. Just a brain right here. I need to, I'm locking in your number, Betsy, okay? I'm keeping that close because I'm going to need you. So, Attallah, talk to me about the overcrowding schools, underpaid teachers. What's your viewpoint on that?
Well, I mean, I think most people agree that teachers are underpaid. Some of us have had, if you want to call it, the privilege of having the summers off, or having, now it seems like 6 weeks. A lot of schools, the year schedule is so different now.
Mm-hmm.
You get a week off, in February, you get a week off in April, you get a week off in November,
Mm-hmm.
you get those 2 weeks off in December, and then it ends up being like a month sometimes
Right.
in the summer, or maybe 6 weeks now. I definitely want parents to know that there are definitely options in terms of how your children can be educated.
Okay.
There's a lot of different options, and most of the teaching that I've done has been kind of non-traditional. So when we talk about early childhood, I've worked under the Reggio Emilia approach, and that's really that's the best approach to learning for people in general that I've ever experienced, and that it's kind of helped change my life. So in early childhood, overcrowding is not supposed to be an issue because by state guidelines, there's supposed to be ratios.
Okay.
Right? So teachers are not supposed to have more than their ratio allows.
Okay.
By state. And then if you have other kind of licensing and certifications, your school, then you have even smaller ratios.
Okay.
So then when we talk about kindergarten and first grade, I've been a first grade teacher assistant. Like Teacher Bay, like that teacher that everybody's talking about right now with the body contrast. I did what she did, and it was because there were a lot of children in that class. It was a first grade class, and it was like 28 students.
Right.
And so when the schools can, they will have that paraprofessional, paraeducator, teacher assistant person come in. I've also worked with a child one-on-one because supposedly they had a special need where they needed that. So overcrowding is definitely an issue. Being underpaid, I mean, Aren't most people underpaid?
Yeah, okay. Keep it real. Yeah.
I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like most people,
Yeah.
I mean, think about, if I'm going to be real with you, I'm an educator, but I do other things.
Right.
I model, I do wardrobe styling, I have my own work that I do on my own. So all of the teachers that I know is to take care of their children. So let's just go ahead and say that teachers are definitely underpaid. It's a fact. It's a fact.
Absolutely. Hold on. Let me get it. Ann, is that you?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
Doing great.
Good. We were in the discussion. Thanks for joining. Can you just tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm teaching high school right now. I'm a special ed teacher, working with Georgia Connection online schooling, the public school, open to everyone. And it's a pretty great experience. I just called in just to catch in and listen in on the conversation. I don't know what the topic is right now, so I'd like to just go on mute and kind of catch in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How about that?
That's fine.
Okay, thanks.
So the conversation, just so you know, Ann, is the topic today was our children in today's school system. So I think Valerie was kind enough to extend this invite to you. So no pressure, no problem. You can listen. And when you have a question, just jump right on in if you have a comment. So it was the overcrowding definitely is an issue. One of the other things I wanted to talk about and touch on, it's a lot of different things, but we all are underpaid. But I feel like, what is the state of the system overall for our kids, right? Is it really, are we chasing grants and monies for funding for our school based on test scores? Is it all about just taking the SRCT,
CRCT.
the CRCTs, and now it's Georgia Milestones was the new thing that was introduced last year. And what are we really doing now? Because it's, to Attallah's point, the scheduling is really like every time you turn around, they're off, right? they start in August. And then they get Labor Day, and then they're going to go for 2 months. Whew, tough 2 months.
Some schools were off last week.
For what?
For a whole week. I guess that was like pre-autumn break. I don't know what that was.
What that was? Okay.
I don't know what it was. I don't know.
And is it the breaks that they get to compensate because the compensation isn't where it is, where it needs to be?
I don't know. It seems like I said earlier, I think what's happening is that they're departing away from having that full 3 months off in the summer. They're departing from that and giving what I think feels kind of good for a lot of students and educators is having breaks throughout the year.
Right.
Where it's not this consistent long school year and then 3 months and you just come back to school in September or August and you're like, oh, school? Oh yeah, I'm a student. So I think maybe they want children to have breaks.
Okay.
And then they just have a short time off in the summer and be, still have that, they still are ready to be students.
So, but okay.
Maybe.
So
that's my understanding.
And that's fair. I guess I struggle because and
you have to go to work.
Yeah, I have to go to work, and again at the end of the day, see, because I was taught in New York, right?
Yes.
All of my public education, and don't date me, but all of my public education from kindergarten, riding the bus, the whole thing from the projects was in New York. And most of my friends or people that I graduated with at that time did not have to go to college. College was something you saw on TV. It wasn't a requirement.
Yes.
Because you got enough information and education from the public schools, especially if you were an A student, B+ student, if you really applied yourself, you really got it. You know what I mean? You had enough that you could go out into the workforce. Quite a few people went into corrections, became police officers. Some were accountants or became like bookkeepers and that type of thing, and then they went and got their certification to become a certified public accountant. People then went to college years later. They didn't do it initially when they came out.
Okay.
So I come from a place where I feel like you get enough. They teach me how to type. Some girls learned stenography. I mean, it was that type of education coming up. So now I come to this beautiful place called Atlanta. It's gorgeous. The weather is nice. The people are nice. Hi, y'all. Everybody sipping sweet tea. It's wonderful, right? It's great. People are living really nice, driving nice cars, but then the ranking, overall ranking for our schools as a whole, I don't know if that's just necessarily for Atlanta, the city surrounding, or Georgia, the state, where it is, they've been 47, 48, 49. There's only 51 states in the whole union. So I'm just like, what are we missing? Now, when I drive to work every day, I see that the billboard, the tote for the lottery is $222 million. That was allegedly designed to help put into the school system to help fund the kids and what they need and computers and all that. So again, the question is, the school system we have today, what are we really chasing? Because some of them can't read. Hello. Some of the math is shaky. Hello. And then the parents that do care about their children and speak to educators about it, they kind of give you like, well, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know. I went into my son's math class. I looked up the board. He wasn't the only person struggling in math. It was a whole bunch of people. As an educator, I'm thinking, what can I do or should do to help this? There's a responsibility, I'm thinking, that you take on when you stand in front of people's kids every day. Granted, some moms or parents don't care, they're not plugged in, but for those that do, and maybe I put educators in a regard like a physician, like you take this oath, right? That you say you're going to be committed to this profession and career that you're doing. I feel the same way for the educators. So the system we have today, I'm giving Katina the eye. Katina, tell me the system we have today. What is your viewpoint on that? What does that look like?
The system that's in place today, in my experience, and I have to use, like I said again, my personal experience to speak from. I've worked a lot in corporate America. So I'm going to use this parallel to try to bring enlightenment to where I can in this area. A lot of times from the perspective of the Board of Education, top down, if you will. If I'm looking at a thing from making rules and standards and things of that nature, and I'm looking down versus the educator that's in the classroom every day, the student that's in the class, and they're putting their hands on something, I'm going to see things different from a bird's eye view than I see from being in the classroom. I sat on the Jesse Coleman Council, which is a council level PTSA, probably back in 2010. Their theme was Every Child, One Voice. If we take Every Child, One Voice, and we look at actually what is mandates that are put in place, they're not apples to apples. They're not apples to apples. So from where I come from, my teachers, and we were talking prior to the show starting, my teachers when I grew up, and I don't care about what year, 70s, 80s, whatever. I ain't stuck on that. My teachers cared. And I'm not talking about they gave me lip service. If I had a question, they were there. It wasn't about, okay, everybody, I'm gonna give everybody my best self.
Right.
And I'm not saying there weren't those who weren't there for the passion or to reach that child or to see that child become whatever it is that, they were, that child and their parent was looking for them to become. But what I remember it being and what I see today, I can go in and I have to credit my father and my mom because they were involved parents.
Right.
They were involved. They were, it wasn't about, okay, here's 30 kids, whatever. They were concerned and they cared and there were servers, but they were concerned about where we went. They were concerned about the labels, but it was about what am I going to put into my child and get behind my child. It's a total different world today. It's a total different world. I see those teachers that are passionate and trying to pour into the children.
Right.
But a lot of times, I have friends and associates who have left the profession because they cannot give the children what they are passionate about.
Yeah.
They're busy being the administrator.
Right.
They have so much to do to make sure that the administrators at the school is covered, the Board of Education is covered, the grants are being gotten, that they can't even focus on instilling into the children or pouring into the children. It's a total different world from where I
Yes,
see.
yes.
I go to the schools. I know my children's
Right,
teacher.
right.
I encourage that
As a parent.
as
Yeah,
a parent, and I speak pro bono. And a lot of times when we're talking about these issues, we're talking, and I'm not saying anyone here particularly, a lot of times when they are being addressed, they're being addressed from an inexperienced place. A lot of people that are making rules, go in and talk to the teacher.
Yeah.
Talk to the student and see what's going on. How do you speak to something, and I'm not talking about the people that put you in office, how do you speak to something you've never touched? How do you solve something you can't even relate to?
Right, right, right.
These are the people a lot of times, and that's not I think they give their best effort from where they are. But you got to get in and get your hands dirty.
You do. Attallah, what are your thoughts on the school system?
Well, no,
today?
I mean, I totally agree. I think that something that's really needed is educator advocacy. You know, we have like teacher unions and all this, which I've never been a part of. I've never really been a part of any of the politics, but I've witnessed it. But educators need people to advocate for them.
Right,
Children need people to advocate for them.
Right.
So when we have those things actually happening, like we actually see those things happening, then we can really start to see people being educated,
Yes.
people being more comfortable being educators. So like Katina was saying, plenty of people leave,
Yes.
come back, leave, come back, or they start to create their own vehicles,
Right.
you know, in order to educate. I created a children's edutainment company that I have where I go to events and I just kind of set up a children's corner.
Right.
And that's my opportunity to be with children in the way that I know how to be with
Yes,
children
yes.
without all of the other, you know, unfortunately BS that can come along with
Right.
it. I also teach modeling and acting students. So because I'm in the arts, that's where I feel more comfortable teaching.
Exactly.
Right? And you know, I'm still in the classrooms, the traditional classrooms, here and there during the week, whenever my schedule allows. But I have, as an educator, felt like there's no one advocating for me.
right,
You know,
right.
there's no one advocating for me when I'm saying, you know, my students are coming to school sleepy. My students are coming to school hungry. My students are coming to school not fully clothed.
Right, right.
You know, and then there's parents who that don't have the time to come and meet with us for parent-teacher conferences.
don't.
There's so many things
There's
that
a
come
lot of
into
dynamics.
raising and nurturing
Yes.
these children.
Yes.
So I think what we're all talking about is the village.
Yeah,
How important is the village? You know, who are we really serving?
Yeah.
If we're really serving children, then that's where we need to start first.
yeah, absolutely. I had a conversation with educators on Friday. The timing of this is just really great because, and I said the very same thing that Attallah is saying. I said, my son doesn't have a voice. I'm his voice. And so, but you are the educators. And so you guys are putting me in a position where that what we're dealing with, we're the only ones that are dealing with it. And I find that very hard to believe. There's 800 students in this building. And so why is it that meetings have to happen in order for process to take place? Why does that have to happen? And I don't know, I can't speak for the masses, but it is a machine. For those of us that didn't know, I am a woman of color, so I've not met Betsy. So Betsy, hi Betsy, I'm a woman of color. So unfortunately, or fortunately, the dynamic is a very routine one, if you will,
Very
right?
much.
So you have to get up in the morning, and you have to bless your Creator, and you have to get your kids and family out the door, and you have to be at work. Because you get an energy that you cannot be there, right? So you have to be there because your work puts the food on the table and da 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 da. And so
Yes.
you're trying to be there for your kids. So I understand that. I understand that dynamic. Fortunately, I'm blessed where my dynamic is not that stringent.
Right.
So I can say, I need to do this for my son. I need to be here for my son. So when I talked to those people on Friday, I spoke for the voices that couldn't speak. So get yourself together, because it's not just him. There's other children that are going to need your educational expertise to get them to the next level. I just feel like if you are not cookie cutter cardboard fit into their way of teaching, and and educators have pressure because it's a curriculum that has to be rushed through or touched in order for testing. You preparing these children for testing. It's not educating or enlightening the mind per se.
Right.
And then parents have to find money somewhere, because the budget is already tight. Let's talk about budget. It's already tight. And so now you have to find extra curriculum things to unlock the key. Now I got to look at Kumon. I got to look at Sylvan. I got to look at tutors. I have to look at people to help my kid get what he needs, because he can't get it. He's at school 6 to 7 hours a day, because it's a routine. It's a process. The train is leaving the station. We gotta, and so.
And then Michelle, so when do children, because I'm not a parent,
Right.
when do they have time to just kind of sit down for a minute? When after school, they might go to after school program,
Yes.
then they go to a tutor, or they're going to one of these, extracurricular or STEAM or STEM, whatever
STEM.
kind of things,
Right.
programs. When do they, what happened? Because I read something online, and I thought it was very interesting. It was a chart saying what time children are supposed to go to school, go to sleep.
Right.
At night,
Yes.
and what time based on what time they have to be at school.
Right.
And basically, for a third grader or fourth grader, they're supposed to be in bed by 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
That's
8:30. I'm pushing it. 8:30 is for us. Yeah.
So when do you have time to do all of those things?
Very little time, because when you come home from work, that's the other dynamic.
You get home from work at 5 or 6.
5. Those are banker's hours. That's me working down the street at the bank. I do not get my son till 6. And that is from getting to work, trying to get to work at 9. The traffic is horrendous. We're going to talk about that.
Atlanta.
But your employer expects 7 to 8 hours of you a day. So you got to do that. So I have to leave at a certain time to get to my son at a certain time. I don't see him, if I'm lucky, maybe at 6. They keep him till 6:30. So I have 2 hours to make the magic happen, in the sense that he has to have dinner. We have to recap his day. We have to look at his homework, because that's what you pay after school to help you be like an extension of you.
Yes.
In making sure that the homework gets done, that they're teaching and they're keeping the light bulb going on, so that 2 or 3 hours of after school is not wasted, that the homework is getting done. And then when you come home, I review it. And then shower, go to bed. And when 8 o'clock comes around, extremely quickly. And this is a Monday through Thursday hustle, because Friday we go, whew, we don't have to do this tonight, because we don't have school on Saturday. We say, whew, you want pizza? Or what? What are we going to do? We're going to watch a Disney movie? We say la on Friday. But that's the grind. It starts from Sunday night. And that's what you do. So it's a very small window. So when I say children can't speak for themselves, parents who can, you have to fight, because again, educators or parents themselves, that's their job. That's the thing that they're asked to do. We don't know what their principal or their leadership is instilling them. Is it a numbers game? Reach who you can. If the parent don't say nothing, you don't say nothing. I don't know. I don't really know. It's just a lot. Go ahead, Katina.
Can I? As you were speaking, it took me way back. After school, when we were growing up, my father required, for as much as possible, that 2 hours, pretty much around 2 hours after school, regardless if you had homework or not, we were required to bring books home. Mm-hmm. We were required to, so to say, a lot of my education took place, even though the teachers at that time they were allowed to teach you. They were allowed to be a teacher and not be responsible so much for making sure that the school got the grant. I come from a place where education was very valued amongst the community. Now, teachers are so stressed out. I remember even when I was teaching, I'm not teaching now, I've actually just finished a contract with APS. doing data analysis and reporting on the numbers and all of that type of stuff. But now the teachers have to do so much administrative work.
Oh my goodness.
I have a daughter. She's about to be 17, and my son is 19. So he graduated out of the not Atlanta Public, but Cobb system. And I have to say this, and it just came to mind as you guys are talking. I have a relationship with my children's teachers, each and every one. They know who I am. I have a dry erase board in my living room because I asked them, what did you do today? What did you understand? What didn't you understand? There are so many teachers that are passionate about what they're doing, but they have nothing more to give.
I understand.
So I find myself, which I don't mind, because if they did have it to give, I'm going to give it to my children anyway.
Right.
And as you were speaking, it just spoke to me on how back then versus now. And you have to look back. Some people like, that's in the past.
Right.
You have to be. We learn backwards.
Right.
To be able to measure what it was that I got. I know they can't get that. That's behind us. But how do I make myself efficient enough to fill in the gap? Because again, the perspective a lot of times is top down.
Right.
We're speaking from the parent place. We're speaking from the Board of Education is speaking from, I'm looking down, I'm getting the numbers coming up. When do we get to a place where we go into the bottom?
The trenches.
The trenches.
Yeah.
Trenches.
Yeah.
That's
You
it.
know, where the action, is really taking place, and where, we're talking about, these are going to be the children that, some of us are going to be holding our pocketbooks because we don't want them to be around us because they're doing things that we don't like. And then you think, well, what happened when they were in school?
Right.
How is it possible that you went through school and you didn't learn how to read?
Right.
That is mind-boggling to me anytime I hear about that kind of thing. So, just really what's actually happening in the schools.
Yeah, it is. And so, now, Betsy, thank you for coming back. Betsy, I'm going to ask you, because now I want to get on Solution Row, right? How do we, any suggestions on how, as a parent, what would you say to a parent that has a child that is struggling? Let's say in one of your biology or your science classes, what are some of the tools that you would tell a parent to help be more of a supportive parent or help them in learning? Because I'm coming from an angle of this. Most people believe that education is important, but every parent can't teach their child.
Right.
Every parent can't reach their child on an educational level. They may not have the credentials. They may not have had the experience. The math that's being taught today is a little different than how it was back in the day. So a parent just coming at it may not be the best way, but without proper tools. So Betsy, what would you say to a parent that, a child is struggling in your classroom, virtual or not, that could empower that parent to help their children?
Well, first of all, Michelle, I'd like to say that I know we talk a lot about teachers' salaries, but for me, virtual schools get a lot, even less funding than brick and mortar schools get.
Right.
So what we're doing with less funding. I just think that you give 110% no matter what. If I wanted to make $1 million, I should have chosen another profession.
Right.
So paying teachers more isn't going to make teachers better. But to answer your question, I have a Google Voice number that my parents and my students have access to 7 days a week.
Wow.
When I have conversations with them, we get kids who have failed in brick and mortar schools, who are behind on cohort. They're not going to graduate on time because they failed. We go the distance to do whatever we can to help those kids get back on track, and that is when we have those conversations with parents. Because you're right, they want desperately to help their child, but they don't know how. So it's me having those conversations. This is what is going to make you successful at our school. This is, and again, it's those relationships, Michelle, that we establish with the family. They know that they can call me, and even if this matter is Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon, she's in urgent care because her youngest daughter's getting 2 staples in her head, like we did yesterday. They can call me, and if there's something they're stuck on, I help them. We have what you did over the weekend. Did you accomplish it? And then we talk about it. If you did get it, then we set more goals. If you didn't, tell me why. But we don't come as a parent like, well, I'm the teacher and you're just not doing a good job as a parent. We come out and like, let's work together, because the main thing, one of the three things that really strikes me as the problem that we have in education is collaboration.
Right.
Accountability and relationships. Those kids, the parents that know me, they know that I will help them whenever they need it. And that's what helps them get through what they need to get through. The accountability also has to be on them. They know that I'm not the only facilitator of content in a virtual school. So the parents have to be there with their kids. And the other thing is collaboration with teachers. You know, last time I was in South Fulton County, I was at Creekside High School, I was at Langston Hughes.
Ooh, my neighborhood. You taught in my neighborhood. Yay.
Langston Hughes is a beautiful, beautiful brand new school. But the problem is, I was on one hallway, and if I needed to talk to the English teacher, she was on the other side of the building.
That's true.
And where I'm at now, we meet, we have learning teams. I meet with my biology team, and we talk about what we need to do to address things that the kids are struggling with in biology. We meet as a ninth grade team. We meet as a department. I mean, these are conversations we have continuously. You know what you said was, we're going to come with our solutions. I always hate when I go to a meeting and all I hear are problems.
Right.
And I don't ever hear somebody say, this is what we can try. The difference, the one thing I think we're doing to say better, because I've been in both situations, is that each year we reevaluate what are we doing, what's working and what's not. What do we do to change it?
That's good stuff, Betsy. I appreciate it. It sounds like you have a process in place that works, and that you don't mind modifying it and tweaking it. And I think what the struggle is, or the opportunity is that there might not be processes in place, or they're slow to move in the process. I think that I just don't sense all the time that there's urgency, because a month has already gone by and we're still having conversations. A month in, I'm thinking we should be at a plan of action at this point. And maybe that's the corporate mindset that I have, I'm not sure. But I think that we have a lot of time in the school year, but in actuality we don't. To Attallah's point, there's a lot of time that they're off, a week here, a day here, and that type of thing. And so, again, I want people to feel empowered, that they have an option. And I think, Betsy, you and the ladies here on the table are cut from a different cloth. I think there are a lot of great teachers out there doing the best that they can, but it's overwhelmed by the system that we're in. And they're getting it from each way. They're getting it from a student that may be reluctant to trying to learn. Maybe there's resistance from the parents or not getting that support. Then they may have a school board or a principal giving them some grief another way. So, you guys are in the middle. I mean, I feel it. But again, I want to figure out what we can do to help people get what they need, because we're losing them. Somebody said to me today, Michelle, I don't care how you figure it out, but you got to get that boy in some kind of technology camp for the summer. Like, you got to figure that out. And I'm like, I hear you. Should I do a GoFund? Like, because I don't. Everything is money, but I got to do something, because people you guys see potential in kids all the time. And then you try to communicate that to us as parents, and we have to figure out how do we tap into that potential, because I get it. Every kid is not designed to be a straight A student. That doesn't mean that they're not creative. That doesn't mean that they don't have an opportunity to excel. So again, but based on where they are now, there is a process or a guideline or a journey that they have to go through. And so I think what we want to do today is try to lighten the journey as best as possible to give people what they need so that they can be successful in it. Attallah, you had something to say?
I was just going to say that, as far as parents, knowing that they have options within my community, there's plenty of parents who are homeschooling their children.
Really?
There's plenty of parents doing that, and there's homeschool networks, and many parents say, I can't do that. I have to go to work, or
Right.
whatever it is that I do for a living will not allow me to be at home
Right.
for an extended period of time. But there are homeschool networks, and there are different types of schools. There really are different types of schools in early childhood, and I'm not sure also in maybe early elementary. Teachers are doing home visits, and it's really awesome because it's really about having this relationship,
Yes.
like Betsy was saying.
Yes.
Having this relationship, like, look, I really want parents to know, whatever kind of schooling, whether it's an extracurricular activity, that person who is in charge of instructing or teaching your child should be your best friend.
Right.
When you come in, you should make eye contact with that person. You should engage with that person, because they're spending 1 hour, 8 hours, whatever amount of hours a day with your child.
Right.
And our hope is that they're doing their best and they're doing what's responsibly right. So I want parents to know how powerful they are. Like, you're powerful. Don't wait till something goes wrong.
Right.
Don't wait till the end of the year when your child is quote unquote failing. That first day of school, those orientations, progress reports, talk to,
Yes.
email her.
Yeah.
Like, we all as teachers, we're like, there goes that parent calling me again.
Yeah.
There goes that parent emailing me again. But you know what? She cares. He cares. There goes that parent. She wants to sit in the classroom. Why do you want to sit in the classroom? I know why you want to sit in the classroom, because you want to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that's your right.
Yes.
That's your right. So I want parents to really be empowered and say, I am my child's first nurturer.
Yes. Yes.
I am my child's first nurturer. This teacher will be with my child for a year, maybe, but I am my child's first nurturer, and this is something that I have decided, because I decided to have this child,
Right.
that I'm going to do for
Right.
the long haul.
There you go. Let me ask you, ladies, is there power in the school board? Like, does the school board really control what's going on?
What do you think,
In addition-
Katina?
in
Some
addition-
people say yes. I'm non-traditional, but some people say yes. What do you think?
Just to reiterate, I did a season or two, I think it was just one, it's been a minute, with Jesse Coleman Council over in Cobb. It's the council level PTA. And, a lot of times when we do things, or we're involved in groups, boards, Board of Education, we look at them as an entity. I believe there are people in each entity that are very passionate and that are not there just for the,
Check.
Right.
the check,
Or
the
status.
Celebrity.
or the freebie or whatever. I believe in each area, and there are exceptions. There's power, and I'm talking about some real power. I ain't talking about I got this dollar or I got that. I believe I've sat on boards and I've been a part of things where there are people there. They show up, they have the influence, and then there are people who show up, and that influence is not about Katina Cunningham. It's about the substance of the thing.
Right. Right.
In each area. Answering your question, I believe there is power, and a lot of times there's distractions that take place from, and I'm not saying the entire entities are always 100, but I do believe there are people that are in these entities that have power and who are truly looking for the substance versus the cosmetics. You know what I'm saying? They're looking for the substance versus the ultimate is to get the money. They want to see the children. I believe there are true advocates that sit on these boards that, and a lot of times it gets overshadowed by everything that's going
right.
on.
Right.
It's sad and it's unfortunate, but there are some people who just rise to the occasion regardless of what entity they're associated with, and they're effective, and they can be. But that person has to truly be aware. That person has to understand and be able to forecast and see the distraction and be able to set myself aside, even though I'm a part of this entity, and use that power for true substance. And I do believe, just to answer, that there is power in some of the, and there are exceptions, there are things that overshadow, there are factors that come into play that kind of sometimes get our focus off, but there are some, sometimes.
How do we tap into that power? Meaning, as a parent, how do I get visibility to school board meetings? Is that always typically publicly announced? Is that on websites? Like typically, just
Well,
again.
what do you think of? You can speak as far as school boards. I can speak as far as outside of that. But yeah,
When I say like school board, I wasn't on like the board, but like the council of the PCA.
Right.
It started with me.
Okay.
I have to go in. It's like if I want to change an environment, I can go in and speak all day long, and our words do have power. But there's nothing more powerful than presence.
okay.
There's not for me. That's what worked for me. I go in. I know my teachers because some people relate who they're receptive to by knowing somebody or a relationship. Sometimes there's no receptivity because who is that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just being real.
Right,
like
right.
not like the person is not influential or important or whatever,
But
but
there needs to be a connection.
there
Right.
has to be a bridge.
Right. Right.
So when I bring Katina in and I get to know Tiana, my daughter's teacher, and my son's teacher, when I come in, and that, I'm not saying that there's not exceptions to that, and we shouldn't be more open. There's it's more taken as, okay, she's serious and it's important. I have to come in. If I can't speak into something and change the environment, then I go and bring myself into the environment. I became, part of this, and that, and I have a voice, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to keep talking about
Right.
it. I know you really don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I know you're not really receptive sometimes.
Right.
But I have a voice. My child cannot articulate all the time what's going on, but I'm involved in my child's life.
Right.
So at the point where I position myself inside of that, and I started to become an active piece of the action process, there is access.
Right. Okay. So with that, let me ask this. We talked about it offline. Let's talk about it online. The labeling of the children. ADHD and autism. I mean, there's different things. Some people feel that it's a game. Game is not a good word. Some people feel that it's a way to manage the challenge, right? Because the child is not cookie cutter. I don't really know how to deal with someone that I can't reach or connect with. I think they have that. Then they need to be on medication, and then it just evolves. So I'm gonna start with Attallah. What do you think about the labeling? I mean, you mentioned some good things offline. What do you think about that?
Well, I struggle with the labeling. As teachers, especially in early childhood, and I want people to know just how important early childhood is.
Yes.
Because clearly it's the foundation. But, when you talk about your child going to elementary school and you don't know what they have going on. A lot of times when I taught first grade, you don't really know what children have going on so young in their life. But in early childhood, we see a lot of things, and children don't normally get diagnosed until about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
So autism, those are things that get diagnosed right around pre-K, first grade,
Okay.
And I do struggle with the diagnosing. I do struggle with the terms and the way that we start to treat them. I find myself now when I engage with people, I kind of think he probably communicates this way because he lives with this. This is how my mind starts to work now, because being an educator for almost 15 years, this is what we've been taught.
Right.
This is what we've been taught. So on the one hand, I don't agree with the labeling. Like I said earlier, I truly believe that everyone learns differently, and that sounds really, idealistic. My shirt says flower child, right? So that just sounds like, yes, everyone just learns differently.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with anyone.
Right.
But I struggle with disorder. Things being called a disorder, meaning like your brain is not functioning properly. And is that really what's happening? Or is it that some people are introverts, some people are extroverts,
Right.
some people are more kinesthetic learners. And when I took, I'll never forget this, when I was in a Reggio Emilia curriculum-based school, we did a learning styles test. And I want everyone to do that. It will really help you understand yourself and your children when you can understand that everyone learns differently. Some people learn by touching things. Some people learn audio, visually.
Visually.
Some people are more natural learners. Some people, I like to be outside.
Right.
I like to touch. I like to talk to people, and I like to hear.
Right.
So lecturing does not work for me.
Mhm.
Lecture classes, I always just be like, this is just not going to work.
Right.
There's no engaging. So I think if we give, right, so I just think that what happens is we have children who may have not gotten what they needed early, the things that they needed specifically early in life. And then now they're in 5th grade and they're getting kicked out of class because they can't sit still. Why do we think that children should sit still for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours?
I know.
That's not developmentally appropriate.
I know.
And it starts in kindergarten.
Yeah.
It starts in pre-K. You go into some of these pre-K classes and you have children sitting at a table and the teachers, sit down, have a seat, sit down, have a seat. If your children are constantly wanting to get up, that means they're not engaged.
Right.
Or they need to get up.
Yeah.
If they're not engaged sitting, then they need to get up and they need to move around. So I think we really need to get back to giving children the things that they need because they are telling us, look, I learn better when we're moving.
Yeah.
I learn better, when there's music playing. When I took that learning test, I scored the highest on musical learner, interpersonal, and intrapersonal. That's a crazy person. That's somebody who is and this is, that's what we would say in the real world. Like, this is somebody who learns very well with others and by herself, and she's a musical learner.
Right.
So there's this constant struggle of trying to figure out, should I do this alone? Should I do this with people? And if you sang everything to me, I would get it. Just sing everything.
You did light up when I was singing offline.
Yes, that's the way that I learned. So so when I took the test, it helped me as an educator because it helped me say, that's why Margot does that. That's why Ian is doing that, because he can't sit still for too long, or because I keep calling on him and he doesn't like that attention. That's too much attention. He works really well by himself.
Right.
Or that, and she works really well in large groups, so she should be my assistant.
Right. Right.
So when you start to learn about what children need by listening to them, and parents have to do that too. Parents want their children to be, the next Albert Einstein or the next Beyonce or the next whatever, but they might have something else planned with their own, who they already are. Excuse me.
You know what's so beautiful about that? It just, when she was speaking, and and I'm not saying you don't, but by you being a technology person, root cause analysis. Root cause analysis, gap analysis. Now we understand, back in the day how we were talking offline, how special ed, everything we don't understand, let's throw these kids in special ed. Now, we're not throwing kids all in special ed. Now, gifted is considered special education.
That's right.
It's no longer looked at as, okay, these are just, I don't want to say it like this, but they don't,
Right.
kids.
Right.
Now, we've evolved to a different place, and we understand that, okay, there are children that have challenges, but some of these kids don't have challenges. They need someone looking at them and diagnosing or forecasting that they don't learn like little Johnny does, or they don't learn like this person does. And that doesn't mean that, okay, they're severely mentally retarded,
Right.
or it's a different, and just as human, we want to be able to call it, but we can't.
Yeah.
And special ed isn't where you put everybody in.
It isn't.
It's a disservice a lot of times.
Yes, Betsy.
Very much so.
I hate labels. I have taught co-taught with Ann for 3 years now.
Okay.
And I have seen students who were labeled as whatever it is they're labeled as second grade. I had a mom in tears on the phone because he said, I don't want to go to school, I'm just not good at it. A student who wanted to talk about suicide because he just wasn't like all the other kids. And I hate that because, like the ladies have been talking about, everybody learns differently. I've had kids who were in AP classes in chemistry and math, and they were just getting straight A's. They took AP environmental, and they were failing, and the parents couldn't figure out why.
Right.
It's just different subject matter. It's different. You have analytical thinkers, like they said, tactile learners. Labeling kids is horrific. I mean, we set them up for failure, and we also cripple them.
Right.
If I feel like they're not the same as the other kids.
Right.
I mean, I was terrible at math. It was awful when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too, Betsy.
I'm a very creative person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard.
So I hate it when we let kids, because it's just not fair, and we really set them up for failure.
A lot of takeaways here for today, ladies. First of all, a lot of energy, a lot of insightfulness, a lot of years of experiences. On behalf of everybody's child that goes to school, I say thank you. We say thank you. We thank you for the commitment that you guys give, going above and beyond. We thank you for tapping into our kids when sometimes we can't reach them. We thank you for bringing the passion that you have in wanting to help individuals be the best individual that they possibly can. We thank you for being professional and bridging the gap between our community of children and the pool of educators in which you work with. We thank you for everything that you do, and we thank you for the tools that you gave our listeners today to help empower them. And so the takeaways are this: that as a parent, you have a right to ask questions. You have a right to be involved. You have a right to be engaged. You have a right to say that you don't know. And you have a right to challenge your school system to give you what you need so that your child or children can be successful in this thing called life, at least the educational path that they're in. We also learned today that learning different is not a bad thing, that we have to understand and provide the tools that our children needs in order to absorb information the way that they do. We need to know that it's okay to say that we don't know. We need to build a relationship with our teachers. They're our advocates. They are an extension of us from an education perspective 5 days out of a week. 5 days out of a week. Teachers see our kids more than we see our kids. And so we have to build that relationship, and we have to give people the benefit of the doubt, and we have to show them that we care and that we're working with them. We're not coming against them, because the data is what it is. Teachers are underpaid whether they're good or bad. There's not enough funding going into the schools that they need. Then there's things that we need to do in the collective state of Georgia to help raise the educational awareness up for our kids. So for that, I thank everybody who hung in there with us today for this conversation. It was very enlightening. It helped me. There's a lot of nods going on in the room. Thank you, Betsy, for calling and representing the virtual world of educating people. We thank you for everything that you guys have done. Follow me, Real Chicks Rock, on Instagram. I got to say that, Sean will kill me. On Instagram. I have to, on Facebook, Real Chicks Rock on Facebook. If you want to get at me, if you want to know the people that I had on the panel today, reach me at M4 at realchicksrock@gmail.com. I think I'm saying it right. It's just so much information. And check out the website so you'll see what we're doing, where we're going, which is realchicksrock.com. On behalf of the panel today, the guests and NSYNC radio team, thank you. And my assistant, we thank you all, and we ask that you continue to rock on. Thanks. Thanks, Betsy.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
That was awesome.
Thank you. I don't know. I struggled today. I did 2 hours an hour.
You know what, y'all? I was thinking.
For a minute, but then I popped it off. I was like, dang, I don't know if I should have.
Oh, you're fine. Come on, Attallah. Another show's coming, and I gotta take a picture. I should have did it earlier. I apologize. Come, we'll take a picture with this. You got it with her?
No, I thought that you guys. I had a question for the lady Betsy.
Yeah, you did the
in reference
virtual.
To the virtual.
I'm sorry. I didn't think
No.
you
I wanted to.
You can probably talk to her.
Yeah,
personally.
she was really
I was
good.
just wondering about her, like how she's reaching the same way that like when how are your kids learning in the virtual world? Like I'm okay learning in the virtual world.
I was thinking about the effectiveness